So let's talk about Prisemi Electronics. They're a huge player in power semiconductors, and they just made a massive bet on their future. You see, buried inside their latest annual report is a strategic pivot so big it could completely redefine the company for the next decade. Today, we're going to unpack exactly what that power play is and why it's such a big deal. Okay, let's kick things off with a number that tells a story all on its own. Positive 17.54%. Now, you are not going to see this number in any of the headlines. In fact, most reports will tell you that Presemi's official net profit was actually down almost 5%. So what gives? Well, this number, the positive one, that's the real growth from their actual business operations. And that difference is the key to understanding a company that's in the middle of a really fascinating transformation. All right, so here's how we're going to break this all down for you. First, we'll look at their financial health. Follow the money. Then we'll get into the big move, the pivot itself. After that, we'll explore the new markets they're trying to conquer, weigh the pros and cons, the synergies and the risks, and finally, we'll give you the analyst's bottom line on this high-stakes move. First things first, let's dive into Prisemi's financials, because to really get what they're up to, you've got to follow the money. And like I said, it's a tale of two very different profit numbers. And here it is, laid out plain and simple. That headline profit, the one that's down nearly 5%, well, that got dinged because some of their financial investments didn't do so great. Stuff that's not even part of their core business. But the number that really tells the story, their core profit from operations, that's up over 17%. And that tells us something absolutely critical. The engine of this company isn't just running, it is accelerating hard. So, what exactly is that powerful engine? Well, right now, it's overwhelmingly one thing: TVS components. I mean, look at that. They make up more than half of all the company's revenue. This isn't just some product line. This is the cash cow. And you better believe it's what's paying for the huge strategic shift we're about to get into. You've probably never heard of TVS, or transient voltage suppressors, but they're kind of like the unsung heroes inside your electronics. They're these tiny little bodyguards that protect things like your phone from sudden voltage spikes. For years, this has been Prisemi's bread and butter, a massive, high-volume business they built by riding the giant wave of the consumer electronics boom. But here's the twist. While TVS is paying the bills, it's not where the future is. Just look at the difference here. Total revenue growth was a pretty healthy 11.5%. Not bad at all. But then you look at MOSFETs, and whoa. That revenue just exploded, shooting up by over 20%. That's nearly double the pace of the rest of the company. And that, right there, is our first major clue that a big pivot is already underway. So shifting focus to more advanced components is one thing, but that's really only half the story. Now we get to the main event, the absolute core of their strategy, a massive acquisition that signals a fundamental change in their entire business model. The centerpiece of this whole plan is that they're buying two companies outright, Shanlei Technology and Jishun Technology. And let me be perfectly clear, this is not just about getting bigger. This is about becoming a completely different kind of company. And this isn't some far-off idea, this is happening right now. The board gave it the green light back in August of 2025. The detailed plan is out in the public, and now they're just waiting for that final regulatory stamp of approval. For Prisemi, this deal is going to change absolutely everything about how they operate. To really get how big of a deal this is, you have to understand what Prisemi used to be. They've always been a fabless company. Now, fab is just short for fabrication, right? Manufacturing. So fabless means they were the brains. They were brilliant at designing chips, but they didn't actually make them. They paid other companies, called foundries, to do all the heavy lifting. But by buying Shanlei and Jishun, who happen to own their own factories, Prisemi instantly transforms into a fab-like company. They still do the design work, but now they also manufacture. And why does this matter? Well, it all boils down to one simple, incredibly powerful word: control. We're talking about control over quality, control over capacity, and really, control over their own destiny. And that need for control, that's the key that unlocks their entire future. But it brings us to the really central question: why go to all this trouble? The answer lies in the very profitable but also very challenging new frontiers they are determined to conquer. This is the billion-dollar question that will define Prisemi's future. Can a company that mastered the fast-paced, cost-sensitive world of consumer electronics successfully make the leap into the high-stakes, high-reliability worlds of automotive and industrial tech? Honestly, it's one of the toughest transitions any company in this industry can attempt. I mean, just look at the difference. Their current world is all about smartphones and gadgets, short product cycles where cost and size are everything. Their future is in cars and industrial gear. We're talking long, long cycles where rock-solid reliability, safety, and bulletproof certifications are completely non-negotiable. It's not just a different market, it's a completely different mindset. This pivot unlocks a whole new universe of high-profit products for them. We're talking cutting-edge stuff like silicon carbide chips to make EV charging way faster, gallium nitride components for smaller, more efficient power supplies, and those heavy-duty IGBTs that are basically the heart of an electric car's motor. This is the future of power technology. So why is owning the factory so critical for all this? It all comes down to one little acronym, AEC Q101. Think of it as the ultimate stress test for car parts. If you don't have this certification, the big automakers won't even take your call. And to get it, you need absolute, total end-to-end control of your manufacturing process, something that's just impossible for a fabless company. This acquisition isn't just a purchase, it's Prisemi buying its ticket to the automotive big leagues. Okay, the logic here is starting to make a lot of sense, right? But is this a brilliant move or a reckless gamble? Let's break down the specific advantages Prisemi gains and the very real risks they're taking on. The whole strategy really rests on 4 big wins. 1, they get that crucial supply chain control to guarantee quality. 2, and this is huge, they get immediate market access by inheriting the customer lists of the companies they bought. 3, it allows them to develop that whole new portfolio of certified high-end products. And 4, they're even financing it smartly, with a deal structure that saves cash and keeps the sellers invested in Prisemi's success. And this simple SWOT analysis really puts the whole dilemma in focus. Their strength is their leading tech. Their weakness? Being way too reliant on the shaky consumer market. The opportunity is a massive domestic market for automotive parts, but the threat is just as real. Those long, brutal, and expensive certification cycles that could stall everything. So, let's bring it all home. What's the final verdict? When you combine their strong core profits, this incredibly bold acquisition, and the massive market opportunity they're chasing, where does it leave Prisemi? You know, this quote from the HDIN Research analysis just says it all. They say Prisemi is entering a strategic qualitative change period, and that's exactly right. This isn't just evolution, it's a metamorphosis. They are transforming from a company that just sells components into a full-range power solutions provider. It's bold, you bet it's risky, but to secure their future, it's a move they absolutely have to make. So, if there's one key takeaway here, it's this. Look past the headlines. Prisemi's strategy shows a company with a very clear vision. They're using the profits from today's successful business to build a much bigger, more resilient company for tomorrow. Now, if you want a more detailed breakdown of all this, the complete in-depth analysis is available from HDIN Research.